Well, welcome back, everyone. This is only my third time recording this one. So we're at season 5, episode 3, and I'm in the garage today. I've been banished. And to beat our 15-minute mentally focused limit, we really need to get straight into this one. No faffing, no fluffing, no flightless birds saying where we at. Isn't that every project manager you've ever met? There's a camera. Again, all the relevant config files are up in GitHub. Please go and get them, move them around into your specific path. That part is up to you, not me. It's also a good way to train yourself how to move around within your Linux shell. Before we go on too much further, host files have been changed. Please go and check them out. That is due to the fact my awesome kit over there doesn't support the concept of putting IP addresses directly on interfaces. So I've had to work around this by creating some VLAN interfaces, then putting ports into that. If you're not a Cisco person, that does not matter. Just ignore this part. You will take more value out of learning how to reference variables in a variable file. Excellent. As we kick on. So the goal of today is pretty challenging. You're going to see a lot of config, and I hope that doesn't overwhelm you. I was a little bit worried when I was putting this together. It could be overwhelming to the new automation engineer, analyst, technician, whatever you want to be called. We're going to configure multiple interfaces, pulling data from the host var files, because we're going to configure 2 routers. We're going to configure interfaces, put IP addresses on them, and we're even going to put ports into a specific VLAN. Again, if you are not a Cisco person, just try and take in as much as you can about the framework of pulling variables and putting them into Ansible and how that looks. You will be more concerned about the concept of iterating, so doing a loop. Again, new concepts, as aforementioned, loop with items. And we're also going to introduce a new concept of parent into our Cisco iOS iOS config module. We're not going to harp on too much about iOS config. It's more about introducing loop with items iteration. This is pretty much a real world example, by the way, of what you're about to see. And it may give you a thirst for information of, well, this is a bit of a touch on infrastructure as code. What does that look like? And as you go out and you look at maybe some books from Packet, some YouTube clips, or even have a dabble yourself, this is maybe your first glimpse of what that world looks like. As I said, we're going to have a multi-part configuration or Ansible play. And one of the things we are doing is we are using iOS config with a concept of parents. Now, I do actually talk more about parent. For more information, please check out the Ansible network module for iOS config. And I'm just going to take you through a brief example right now. So when you're configuring a Cisco router, to put an IP address or configure an interface specific attributes, first thing you have to do is move to interface config. For example, I'm configuring in the example here a little Cisco 1800, which has a few fast Ethernet interfaces. Yes, it's ghetto. What do you expect for $10 off Gumtree? If you want to build a lab and you don't have the processing power or memory to run something like Eve or even the old GNS3, just go and spend $10, buy some old Cisco routers. You'll sell them for 10 when you're finished anyway. But we move into interface configuration. So in FA4, once we're in interface config, as you can see here, we can then put an IP address. So a parent argument is interface FA4. Then we can go and we can configure lines of code, of which description, IP address, then the argument. So I hope that covers what the parent under iOS config actually means. And this can be applied to other things, not just interface, but if you've got a route map or an access list, you can apply that as well. So moving on to our next slide. This is where it will get a little bit busy. So as I move my head, there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot going on. This is up in Git, by the way. Please feel free to check it out. We're looking at what CPE01. You're starting to notice what we've done is we're looking at host-specific variables of what CPE01, which are also updated for what CPE02 with some key differences. I've structured this to represent high-level values in the form of a dictionary with a list within. So let's quickly look at L2 VLANs in, where's my mousey gone? L2 VLANs under what's CPE01s, which is a host-specific variable. As someone arrives at my house. So under L2 VLANs, we have a list of 3 unique VLANs, each with unique data such as name, VLAN ID. This same methodology is applied to L3 interfaces and the L2 interfaces as well. Our play on the right-hand side of the screen references these values, and let's walk through it. Starting at task 1, let's jump to with items, which, to be honest, should have been rewritten as a loop. However, the with items is an iteration. It iterates, it loops. And as an example of task 1, a list of 3 elements exist under L2 VLANs, which is saying it will iterate over VLAN 101, 102, and 103. To reference a key value pair under L2 underscore VLANs, it would be written as L2 underscore VLANs dot VLAN ID. For example, as we've defined this in the with items statement, we merely reference it as item.key, item.name. So L2 VLANs dot name. We don't reference as L2 VLANs dot VLAN ID dot name, L2 VLANs dot name. Looking at task 2, we see further examples of this. Note the dictionary we now reference is relative to L3 interfaces. To iterate over the data, so this part's going to create some routed interfaces, some SVIs, virtual interfaces, VLAN interfaces, if you will, depending on where you've come to this from. And these are going to be different between what CPE01 and what CPE02. Different IPs, different descriptions. The biggest one is when you'll come down to L2 interfaces, which has different values. Once again, the 1111, which is what CPE01, has gig interfaces, whereas what CPE02, the 1800, has a concept of FA1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 7, top of my head. Again, task 3, a lot of the data is just regurgitated. There's nothing that should be jumping out and saying, oh, I don't understand where he's got this from. Just notice with items, I'm referencing L2 interfaces, and within that, interface, for example, interface, VLAN underscore assignment. So where's VLAN underscore assignment? There we go, VLAN underscore assignment. So you know what? I think it's time, maybe press pause, try and sync this in, and then try and picture how you think it would look. And then we're going to go and run it. And the only reason we're going to go and run it, because time is not on our side, is because I've actually made a mistake and I need Ansible to go and fix it. The mistake I made was what CPE01 and 02, I copied and pasted the variables when I first run this. So I needed to go and fix that. So let's actually Control U, clear the screen. Let's go Ansible dash playbook, our path to the inventory file, our path to the play, and this play is called Play Season 5, Episode 3. Now, one of the reasons I've had to recreate this is because I actually didn't write the play. All right, everyone. Am I connected to the network? Yes, I am. Let's run this bad boy. It's going to go out to what CPE 01 and 02 under the group CPEs. It's going to configure the interfaces, and we will then log in and confirm this. How are we going for time? 10 minutes. Okay. Excellent. Now, there's a lot to do. If you're doing this at hundreds of routers, it's at that point you should reconsider if Ansible is the tool for you. What's CPO 1? What's CPO 2? Excellent. So it's done the first part. It's configured some VLANs on the box. That's more relevant when you're configuring a switch than a router. However, it is a task and it's pulled the various details, the config snippets. Task 2 ran. It has made some, what would we call them? Some SVIs, some VLAN interfaces. That's excellent. And notice what it's done is it's pulled the relevant information that we've been looking for. And the final task is it's assigned interfaces, physical interfaces, to a VLAN assignment. As I said, the 1111 has a concept of gig. The really ghetto 1800 has a concept of fast ether 1, fast ether 2. That's excellent. It's pulled it. It said you're in VLAN 101 or 102. And it's given it a description. Whereas this one's got a more detailed description as per the host-specific variable. And as a receipt of works of our 3 tasks, all have invoked a change of some sort. Let's quickly SSH in. SSH to using our sysadmin-jb at 100.61.0. I don't know, 102, because it's a bit older. It's going to be easier to read. And that was Cisco 123. EN again, Cisco 123. Let's show in status. Excellent. FA1, FA2. They're the 2 devices, the interfaces we configured. Obviously, the actual host var for that one has a description of removed. Way to go, guy. Show run int VLAN 101. Did I please don't remove this description as well? No, I didn't. Excellent. And this time it's actually got the right IP, because before I cut and paste the wrong IP. And just to confirm that, let's quickly look at Sublime. What CPO2 I believe we're on. And it's 98765 for our Telstra WAN link. Let's just confirm that. What did I have down here for the description? Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Something hasn't worked the way I had hoped. However, show run int FA1. Well, something didn't go well there. We can worry about that another time. So looking at our output again, we've seen it go out and make some changes. I'm thinking, why did it not change the description on the actual ports on the 1800 series? I bet it's something silly. which I'm not going to harp on because I did see it actually work for CP01 and the SVI interfaces. So let's look at if we explore the output, and here's something I did earlier, we're going to see that it's gone and configured the interfaces 0, 1, 0. That's where I got the removed as well. That was me actually mucking around. It's configured the interface VLAN 101, so the routing interface. It's given it the description. It's put in the IP addresses and the masks. Again, it's assigned ports to a specific VLAN as well, which is excellent over here, VLAN 101, VLAN 102. Again, on the 1800, where you're seeing here, similar story. It's referenced Fast Ether 1, Fast Ether 2, and VLAN 101, 102. Because in a future episode, we're actually going to configure some routing protocols and CDP, LLDP, etc. Well, there'll be no LLDP on these things, they're that old. But as you can see, it's referenced the specific data from what's CPO1.yaml, CPO2.yaml to pull this data in and drive our configuration push. Oh, so a lot's been done here as we shrink my head, but congrats everyone on making it through season 5, and I award you all the certificate from the Ministry of Automation Magic, the High Level of Awesome Award. You've all deserved it. You've been able to work on obtaining Cisco AOS facts, you've backed up Cisco AOS devices, you've covered the basic use of some variables, you've gone over a specific application of with items / loop, and you've also dabbled with the concept of using iOS parent lines. You are now capable of doing some pretty significant things. You could take this, you could update switch configurations, such as if you've got to update switch port VLAN assignment, you're now capable of doing that based on what we've done. You're capable of updating a line in an access list in bulk to a fleet of devices. For example, if you have to now update, what's a real one? A radius or attack plus server IP, looking at my friends in North Sydney, against possibly 20 different switches. This is how you would do it. So again, I want to thank you everyone for attending. We'd really love some feedback in the comments if this is useful, if I'm getting you guys up to a 100/101, which is you are now familiar with the concepts. If not, please let me know of where we can improve. But everyone, I really thank you for your time and patience, and I look forward to seeing you in season 6, which is Ginger 2 templating. Okay, everyone, have a great day.